Hey guys, today I want to talk about something a little more serious, and it's Black Lives Matter. And I hope I don't offend anyone, but I'm going to tell you how I really feel. Hey, so right now in America, we're having a really big problem. We're having several. First of all, Donald Trump. Second of all, coronavirus. And third, racism. Issues with racism. Black Lives Matter. And I believe they matter, and here's why. First of all, racism has been a problem in the United States for the entire history of the United States. Unfortunately, black people were brought to America against their will as slaves. And then they lived as slaves for quite a long time before slavery was abolished. And once it was abolished, racism didn't end. Slavery is like the worst form of racism I'm sure we could imagine. Like a person having no rights, being treated like garbage, just doing everything that they were told for free. Imagine that as your heritage in America. And then after racism was abolished, there was segregation in the United States. So the black people and white people, you've heard, drink from different water fountains, for example, or went into different schools or different buildings or different sections of restaurants, or sitting in the back of the bus, as we've heard from Rosa Parks, that story. So, there was segregation. Black people were still being treated as less than white people. And this is after slavery. So, yeah, it's better than slavery, but it still wasn't fair. And it was still hard for people of color. So, we can go forward a little more, and soon, well, I shouldn't say soon, but segregation was abolished in 1964, I believe. It's the Civil Rights Act. And many of those laws, it was finally legal for black people to go to the same buildings, go in the same places as white people. Everything was supposed to be equal at that point. And that was a great achievement, most definitely. However, what happened and what is happening now is that racism still exists, even though it's not on the law books. That even though people of color are often protected, even in the workplace and, in every aspect of their lives, they usually have the same protections as white people on paper. However, what happens is white people, and maybe other racial groups, but we're talking mainly about white people, think of black people as less than, or maybe they're afraid of black people, or there's just something in their head. Maybe they think black people aren't as good at work or as reliable, or there's a lot of ideas in the heads of white people, me included, because I'll tell you something, that racism is in all of us, including me. So I have my ideas about black people too. And so do all of you, whether you want to admit it or not. You may say, I have no racism, no way. That's probably not true. Maybe it is, but probably not true. Because humans make assumptions about people. We make assumptions all the time about everything. And that's what humans do. And black people do it too, people of all races. But the key is that if you care about other people, if you actually believe people should be treated equally, then we need to recognize these patterns in our head, these thoughts that we may not be aware of. Some people call it, I think it's subconscious bias. There's like trainings on it in workplaces. I've been in one of those. And the thing is that as a white person, we often don't want to face the fact that we might be racist or have some racist part of us. And I'm one of those people. I didn't want to think about that. I would say, I'm not racist. Oh my God, and get angry. And race makes people angry. It always makes people angry, I think, or uncomfortable or upset. because we have these things inside us and we don't want to know that they're there. We want to think well of ourselves that, oh, I'm not a white person who would discriminate against others, But we sometimes ignore or want to ignore those feelings we have inside. Like, I'm going to give you a personal example, and this is unfortunate, but it's true. I have been mugged in San Francisco by a group of black men. And I've had my phone stolen from me 2 times by a black man in a nightclub. Unfortunately, my only experiences with being mugged or being stolen from that I remember, I don't think there are more. These are all like with police reports because I wanted my phone back. The time I was mugged, they took my iPod back when that was actually popular. And it made me think, oh, black men, that's scary. They might try to hurt me or try to steal from me, so I have to be careful. And why did that happen? Because I'm a white person who's not around black people very much. Well, yes, I have black friends. I didn't want to even say that because everyone says that. So I'm around some black people, but for the most part, I'm around white and Asian people. This is in the US. Here in Japan, I'm obviously around more Asian people because I live in Japan. But this is in America. So I started to form assumptions about black people based on my experience with black people, which was limited. I think that a lot of us are doing that and maybe not aware of it, or maybe we should be more aware of it, because those little things can cause us to treat black people differently, and my fear of black people has probably influenced my interactions with black men specifically. Maybe, and this reinforces something that I have heard lately black men really dislike and really wish were not true. They actually don't want to be feared. At least that's what I'm hearing. And I think we have to explore these parts of ourselves to know what they're talking about, and we have to listen to them. And the Black Lives Matter movement has made me think about things like this, and I wanted to be really honest because I think my honesty could help you be honest with yourself too, and maybe we could actually make the world better, make America better, by thinking about these things and looking at what black people are asking for. They say Black Lives Matter because they feel like they don't matter. That's the perception of white people and the majority of Americans. And you can look at black pay, like who gets paid more. If you look at salary compared by race, I recommend Pew Research. You can find this. It's a reliable source. I'm not showing the data right now, or maybe I will, I don't know. But anyway, you can see that white people, Asian people, Latino people, all of them are paid more than black people. Something's wrong there. Back to the fear. Okay, my fear of black men. Other white people's fear of black men, including other races. We shouldn't leave out Asians or Latinos and their feelings about black people too. There's probably racism there too. I know there is. Anyway, but white people's feeling of fear towards black men, okay, it almost sounds like what harm could that do? But there is an example, many examples. Obviously one is George Floyd. I think that his death was fueled, possibly, it could have been straight up hate, that's true. But it also could have been fear, that he was afraid. And the reason that he was pretending or seeming so comfortable, the one who had his knee on his throat, on his neck, the reason he seemed so comfortable might be because he was trying to appear comfortable. He was actually afraid. That's just one theory. It could have been straight up hate and he was really comfortable about doing it too. So, I mean, I don't know the psychology behind it, but I was just thinking, what could drive someone to do that? And fear could be a big part of that. Another thing about fear, if you look at prison populations, we know that uh, current statistics, it's about half of prisoners in the prison system are black. If not half, it's close. I saw stats recently. The thing is, oh, maybe at first glance you think half, well, okay, half black, half white, and or something like that. That doesn't sound so unfair. But it is unfair because black people don't make half of the population of the United States. That's what you have to remember. So it's totally disproportionate. So fear of black men, fear of what they're going to do, drives this putting them into prison, in my opinion. I think that fear is what's putting them in there. More black people being arrested. So, but it could also just be hate, and it probably is in part hate. But I don't think that racism is so much hate as it is fear, loathing, feeling that black people are inferior. So is it really hate? I don't know if hate is the real strong feeling behind racism. I think it might be other things. But anyway, the Black Lives Matter movement is forcing Americans to think about this, and thank God, because we need to think about it. It's been unfair for too long. Black people have gotten the worst deal in America of all races, and their feeling of being treated unfairly, of being watched in stores, of being arrested, killed by police, reported by white people in the park for bird watching, these things are not imagined. And now we have videotape proving it. And because of that, a movement is really happening. People like me, people like other Americans, are forced to see how Black lives are going, and we're forced to think, what are we going to do about this? The black people are not shutting up. And that's good. So, what are we going to do? How can we respond to the Black Lives Matter movement? Well, one thing that I have done, and I felt like I should do it because I've seen these posts like silence is violence. At first, I totally thought, what? Does that mean that people are going to get violent if we stay silent? No. It actually means, I looked into it, it means that silence is like violence because it's just as bad as violence. So while black people are being killed by police officers, if you are, as a white person, are silent, then you're pretty much saying, I agree with that, or at least you're allowing it to happen. You're not trying to stop it. So that's why silence equals violence. So I'm speaking out because I don't want to be silent. I don't want to support racism. Even though I have my own racist feelings that I recognize and I check, that's what I'm doing. Because I know they're there and I know that that's not fair, I actually have to think about it instead of going by my brain's automatic response that black men are scary. But it's for everyone. It's not the same. People have different thoughts, different ideas about race, and I'm sure I have more too. But I'm just trying to give an example. So, yeah, let's all do that, and let's all think about our feelings, our thoughts about black people, and then think about how you could do better. There's lots of literature out there. There are YouTube videos. There are movies. There's books. Just so many resources where you can learn more about racism and more about the black experience. And then you have your black friends or people on Facebook. that you can talk to or just listen to what they're saying on social media. Um, but yeah, I think we could make America better for black people. Unfortunately, I don't think racism can ever be eliminated because people will always be racist or always have thoughts that are considered racist because everyone makes assumptions about people based on their appearance, not only race, their clothes, their hair, their eyes, their sexuality. Oh, girl, you know, I'm gay. People make assumptions about me too. And they always will. But maybe people can get better about recognizing that they're making assumptions and then at least try to be more open-minded, and definitely not make choices that affect someone's life dramatically based on those assumptions we're making, like racist assumptions, like shooting people who are unarmed or putting large populations of people into prisons. Well, anyway, that's what I've been thinking about since the Black Lives Matter movement has started. And I say keep protesting and keep forcing us to change. You deserve it, black people. You deserve better than what you've gotten in the entire history of the United States. I think it's time you get treated fairly, and more power to you. Thank you so much for watching, and please share this with someone if you think they might be interested, or if I totally offended you, I probably have. I'm not an expert on race, but I was trying to be honest. Leave me a comment. Let me know. What did I do wrong? I'm sure I did something. But also leave me a comment if you appreciated this and maybe what your experience is. Like, how do you feel? Do you think you have racist thoughts or feelings? And why? What happened that might have caused those? And I think we need to talk about this. It's uncomfortable, but how are we going to get better if we can't even be honest? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Much love to you all. Goodbye.